going on, guys? Aquan here, back with another video here today to give you another update. Some records that I missed in my attempt to, review as much music as possible. And just want to talk about some good, some bad, and just, some records that I thought were interesting. And as we always do with these series, series, we're gonna go in order of, in my opinion, quality. And yeah, this is going to be some, just quick rapid fire reviews of what I thought. First, we're going to talk about the worst record in this list. And for some context, I haven't I've never really liked Bronx Drill, even when it first came out from K Flock and D Thing. I was never really a big fan of it. I like to say now that because the sort of murder rap and the yelling out of names and stuff like that has just gotten too much for me to really enjoy it anymore. But I think a really big core reason for me personally is just like the rapping isn't good anymore. And I really struggle to find the appeal in Bronx Drill. And I heard a lot of good things about Didi Osama going into hearing his record. First record I wanted to talk about that I'm really not that big of a fan of is Here to Stay. Obviously, he had the feature with Mabu, but I listened to his album recently, and it's a hard no. It's a really hard no. The writing is bad, super basic rhyme schemes. The screaming, like it's just getting so repetitive sonically with these Bronx Drill guys. I'm really struggling to like find the difference between each one of them in terms of like what they truly offer differently. And I was always someone who was a big defender early on of drill. When people tried to call it, repetitive and this, that, and the other, I always felt like, some people offered voice, some people offered, ad lib, some people offered, a bit more depth lyrically. But I think especially with these Bronx Drill guys, it's hard to really tell the difference between them vocally and flow wise. And I almost feel bad like talking about Didi Osama's record in this way, because I could tell that like he's just very new to music in general. And his raps seem very sort of elementary and very beginner level, both in the way that he's able to write a beat and also just the lines themselves. No really noteworthy songs to really speak of besides the one with Coi Leray, where Coi Leray carried. And yeah, it really just was a weak record in my opinion, and pretty disappointing. For every style of music, I try to find the appeal or at least what to other people is enjoyable about this record or about this style of music. I think I continually with Bronx Drill, I think just struggle to find what exactly is truly engaging about this style of music. Besides the couple samples here and there really wasn't anything even like interesting about the record or particularly, notable. And so yeah, overall I really didn't enjoy the Didi Osama record. It was also, I think, too long for what he was capable of. I think Ice Spice really has broken the mold in a major way coming out with that EP, being able to say like, if this is all you're capable of, that's okay. And the fact that the music industry has celebrated her is, I think, a good sign in the right direction of like, hey, even if you don't have 1,000 song ideas, it's okay. Just come out with what you have, but don't overextend yourself. And so, yeah, that was Didi Osama's record. Like I said, I don't even really like crapping on it, to be honest, because I feel like he's so young that like I can tell that he's really just sort of getting his bearings in rap. But like all negative reviews, I will always say that I am always excited to see if he can turn it around and, come with something better in the future. So yeah, that's how I feel about. Oh, and the production was, just typical Bronx Drill production, that sort of overly distorted drill bass that I've never really been much of a fan of. Yeah. But anyway, moving on to another record that I honestly, while I don't have as much disdain for, I don't feel that much better about. This record kind of got on my nerves a little bit, to be honest. This new Rome Streetz record called Wasn't Built in a Day. And Rome Streetz is a Griselda artist, one of the sort of main core members, actually. And like I said in the last video, I've been doing a lot of research on New York groups, so I wanted to see what he had to offer as an artist. So I checked out his most recent album, and I think overall I wasn't really impressed. This kind of fell into the category of like definitely very miracle, spiritual, individual, metaphysical type of rap for me personally. The bars, I think my biggest problem with the record was like it was a guy spitting dense rhyme schemes about effectively nothing. Like the thoughts weren't coherent. The subject matter felt very typical, and it wasn't. There just wasn't any connective tissue to any of the things he was talking about. It kind of reminds you of like a early Cannabis, or like an early Token or something like that, but just replace incoherent "I'm a better rapper" bars with incoherent street bars, and you basically have the same thing. And it just was really, I think the writing really killed it for me. The beats also were pretty empty and boring, although they were definitely the strongest part of the record. Of course, all the Griselda guys have that very distinct production that's always, been a decent amount engaging. There weren't that many choruses on this record. He mostly just kind of rapped. The choruses that were there were pretty bad, in my opinion. But I think, like I said, the main issue with me for this record was definitely it was like someone who kept bragging about how good his pen was, just for us to sort of see the lack of focus that he had with said pen. Now, this is not an indictment on Rome Streetz in his entirety. I bet that with a longer project and a more focused idea, he can probably do a lot better. And I, of course, haven't heard all of Rome Streetz's discography, and I'm excited to hear more as I go through his music. But definitely for now, I was definitely a bit let down for, the rest. In comparison to the rest of Griselda, Rome Streetz definitely feels like one of the weaker links in my opinion. Next record that I want to talk about is actually a record that I liked a decent bit, but was still slightly underwhelmed by. I said that in the Conway joint, I was going to talk about the 7X record. Her record, by the way, is called The Genius Tape. And I listened to it, and it wasn't bad. I actually really enjoyed a lot of the songs. And there was a few songs with a decent amount of lyrical focus on there, but I think in comparison to what she displayed on her features and what she displayed vocally on her different on the different Conway records, I think I was overall disappointed because I was expecting more. I think it was still a great record, and it's maybe even top 20 at like the very, very current moment. But there was a lot of miracle spiritual stuff on there as well, less so than Rome Streetz, but still it was definitely a decent amount of like nothing burgers. But I do really like a lot of the songs on there. I thought the production was definitely better than Rome Streetz, and I do think that there was a couple more sticky choruses on here. One thing I think that was sorely lacking though was I was expecting to see more melodies and singing, because of course she's a very talented vocalist, and I always feel that people who have that ability to both rap and sing should always should use that to their advantage. But I didn't really get that on this record. That being said, there were definitely some highlights. I loved Brainstorming. I thought that was an incredible record. Brain Food as well. I also really enjoyed the two tracks, The Feel, where she talks about some of the emotional disassociation that she struggled with and not being able to come out and be able to show a soft side, and how that has damaged her ability to connect as well as engage with her own past traumas, as well as the song Lost on Mars, which has a really interesting title when you think about it, because it's about a story, it's about a love story where she's dealing with a guy who is of course involved in street life. And I think that, I don't know if this was like, the meaning of it, but I think Lost on Mars is a really interesting title, because men are from Mars, women is from Venus is a very popular book and just general theory in general, that and Mars representing a lot of sort of typically male thought patterns and uh, ailments and just lifestyle choices in general. And so to see the title be Lost on Mars is kind of her sort of talking about, and she gets into this in the record, how the person who she's currently dealing with is sort of lost in a lot of the male thought patterns and pressures that come from being a black man in America. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if she meant it all that deep, but I thought it was a really interesting title and gives a window into uh, the perspective that she has around the whole thing, which I think is really great. So yeah, overall, I really liked the Genius tape, but was overall pretty underwhelmed just from the lack of musical diversity and the amount of sort of empty bar heavy tracks that I felt existed on the record. The last record that I wanted to talk about is genuinely an album of the year contender, and it's from somebody who I thought was going to be that Miracle Spiritual, Empty Bars kind of guy. Jay Skis came out with an incredible record a few months ago, and it is Jay Skis is a rapper that has really come to prominence for me, at least has been on my radar in the past year or so, with the amount that Conway has been pushing him forward, them doing a collab tape together, and one of the best songs off of Won't He Do It being chosen featuring Jay Skis. Jay Skis to me has always been known for having some of the nastiest punchlines that drum work has to offer. But I didn't really hear sort of much else from him, and so I was curious to see if he could cash in on that potential lyrically and really make an incredible body of work, and that he did. The production on Abolished Uncertainties was genuinely incredible, full with live instrumentation, samples, and very just groovy, like, absorbing beats, right? Soundscapes that you can really get fully sort of wrapped in. But on every song, there is a different story, there is a different theme. And because of the potency of Jay Skis' pen, he has this ability to be so compelling throughout all of these tracks. And it truly is an amazing listen. One of the best written records that I've heard this year. Super, super, super strong. Some of the highlights for me were definitely the Burner Phone song, that incredible storytelling track, Auntie's Crystals, and the Sideline Saga, him getting into, very personal and heartfelt stories about what he's been through. Of course, you got Symmetry with him and Conway going back and forth with incredible bars. And overall, just the record had so many highlights from a writing perspective. I was really impressed with what he had to offer, honestly. And like I said, to me, if anyone was going to give us the lyrical Miracle Spiritual album, I really thought it was going to be Jay Skis, but he really came through with an incredible album. All of the features, kicked ass. They all did their thing. Some of them providing vocals, some of them providing just different voices and different perspectives, but were able to keep up with Jay Skis lyrically, which was super, super great. I was just overall really impressed with this album, and I'm very excited to see what Jay Skis' next endeavors are. And I of course I can't call him a new artist, but definitely when it comes to being a dominant artist of this year, whether you want to talk about his project earlier in the year with Conway, all the features that he's been doing with the Drumwork guys, he has really been everywhere this year and killing it wherever he's been. So yeah, absolutely. Abolished Uncertainty is one of the best projects I've heard this year, for the incredible writing, for the full production, for the consistently great features on the record. And yeah, so yeah, with that being said, those were some albums that I missed this year that I wanted to talk about. Some good, some bad, some in the middle. With that being said, peace, y'all.